Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in again to the Design Principles podcast with myself, Gerard, Ben, and Sam. Today, we are talking with a bit of a legend. He's an architecture tour curator, an educator, a YouTuber. Alongside Andrew Maynard, he outputs a lot of great content online, which you should definitely check out. He is Kevin Hui of Archimarathon. Archimarathon, let's get into it. Kevin, do you want to give us like a little intro on who you are and what Archimarathon is for those who have no idea?
Well, Archimarathon originally is about running tours and traveling to see buildings, and hence the Archimarathon part. I usually plan these super dense architecture tours, and hence the marathon. Lots of walking, lots of public transport. So that's the starting point, and then we started that in 2018, and then Andrew Maynard from Austin Man Architects, a friend of mine, decided to let's do YouTube in 2020, just in around February.
Oh, right.
And the idea was that, we'll make more content. We get paid to travel. We're going to make it big and get sponsors and get sponsored to travel and make more content. And then this little thing called, I don't know, you may have heard of it, COVID, got in the way.
Did manage to make its way over the ditch, yeah.
Yeah, so we ended up making videos without being overseas and just start talking about everything architecture and architecture education related issues. And then we've been traveling again, and then 2022, this space became available, which is right next to Austin Man Architects office. So we started a studio space to try to bring back studio culture for students in Melbourne.
Awesome.
So this is like a co-working space studio that's trying to bring back what used to be studio culture, which people from overseas, especially in America and Europe, they're just going, how can you have architecture education without a studio space? But yeah, this is the reality in Melbourne, and that's what we're trying to do.
How did you guys identify that sort of need? Was that interaction with Archimarathon online, or?
No, it's just I've been teaching for a long time, so I can see the sort of the death of the architecture studio culture, or the lack of.
Yeah.
So students just go home after uni and just work by themselves, rather than the camaraderie that happens. Conversations, a little soft skill conversation that happens in studio spaces, rather than all they think about is just their own project. It's always about a conversation with others.
Yeah.
And that's super important when you go out and work. You need to have that ability to just ask questions when it's needed, and it's kind of handy just to look over someone's shoulder and go, hey, you've been staring at that screen for 3 hours, what exactly are you doing?
Yeah.
And then everyone just going, hey, there's a quicker way to do this. Let's, what are you trying to achieve? And, having that conversation and just removing yourself from that single-minded perspective.
Yeah, it definitely helps with learning new software and that sort of thing as well.
It's interesting that you say that in Europe and in the States and things, they've got a bit more of a studio culture and less so in Australia. I kind of feel like we had a bit of a studio culture here, but maybe not to the extent that studio culture used to be. Is it worth sort of maybe outlining like the way that education does run there in Australia, or maybe particularly in Melbourne?
Well, it's a big money-making business, isn't it? Now just the university just think all the spaces are bookable and they can use for teaching, rather than a space just given to students and go, you work here.
Oh, wow. So they have no dedicated space of their own.
Oh, that's crazy.
No.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a shame.
I mean, there are some spaces, but then there's no culture. There's no, conversation that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Whereas here we have got people from different universities, different year levels working.
Cool.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I was going to ask if it was tied in with any university, but I guess it's just more of like a student benefit of anything.
Yeah. And it's also tied in with practice. We just literally, sorry, I was like, Austin Made Architects decided to have a design meeting over in our space. So, and it invited everyone else to join in just to make the design better. So there was a conversation with practice, basically, just seeing that,
first-hand
because
experience.
that's how often you learn is through osmosis. Yeah.
Cross-pollination is so important, particularly for students. I mean, like we're a very small practice, but we have graduates come through and sort of teach them up through that process, but it's quite formalized. I think having that little drop-in ability to a professional practice, particularly as a student, is so critical to understanding how architecture works in the real world. I don't know what it's like there, but Gerard and Ben will attest to this. Architecture school taught us a lot of things, critical thinking, design, all that sort of stuff, but it didn't really prepare you for architecture or being an architect, I should say.
Yeah, there's definitely a leap between the two. So I think, imagine that if architects came in and had design meetings in the studio, I think that would blow students' minds a little
projects,
bit.
Yeah, I think our university, all three of us went together at Victoria University in Wellington there. But I think their studio culture was quite strong, or back in our year anyway. And I certainly am still trying to bring some of that culture into my day-to-day practice. I don't know. And now it's come down to if we can catch up for morning tea and have a bit of a design sesh here and there, or I don't know. It's a lot harder, especially because we're not exactly. Most of the time we're just working by ourselves. So interacting with other architects is a huge bonus, really.
Back to that isolation. Yeah. Me and Gordon Young lived and breathed studio. It was, I think, some epic times that I look back on with quite a lot of fondness. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're sort of older generation, we went through those things. And I remember there was a 25-year anniversary from University of Tasmania where Andrew studied, and they were having a gathering here, the reunion. And then some of the students were sitting here going, "Oh my God, can they think of, would they ever have photos and memories those guys had back in the day at uni?" So now they don't. There's not much memory being formed, such as the things that actually happens in the studio in this kind of tight-knit community. Now it's just a course. They just do stuff and
where do they learn all their model making skills?
Or get the person with small hands to do the difficult model making for you.
Yeah,
the learning of software was a big one I found in the studio.
Definitely,
because some of those programs are quite complex.
I still miss that for sure. I'm like, if there was someone to, tell me how to do this crazy scheduling or something like that, So key.
How does the space work from the financial side?
So it's a bit like a co-working. Yeah, it's a bit like a co-working model, but we've kind of dropped it quite a lot pricing wise. So yeah, they just pay for. It's about currently $19 a week.
What?
Australia.
Oh man, that's epic.
Man, take my money.
Yeah, no, it used to be a lot more. Yeah, it used to be a lot more, but it's still people paying and they're not here. It's like selling an iPad. I think a lot of students are still not getting the idea of you need to be here. If you're doing uni work at uni, if you're doing uni work at home, you're missing the point.
Yeah. Are you noticing a difference between the students that are using Studio and students that aren't in terms of work outcome, design direction, learning?
I think the ones who are actively here, they involve the critical thinking and discussing others' projects. At first they were going, "Oh, but I'm spending all this time on others' projects." And I said, well, you choose to engage in that conversation because you are learning from it. You know you do. And that's why they get kind of addicted in that conversation. And yes, I think there's a lot more objectivity to be able to stand back and look at a task that they're doing and think, well, what's the outcome? What's the end outcome we're trying to achieve? Instead of at the moment now, everything's so prescribed. You have to, they're just doing these assessments and constantly just doing a thing, hand it in, doing a thing, hand it in, and not thinking about a big picture, like what is the purpose of that? And so, they're able to look at that because they look at someone else's and go, okay, well, what are you doing? But what's the end result you're trying to get to? What's the quickest way to get there? How do you iterate quickly?
As well for students, I mean, you're learning your own design voice, you're learning how to design, all these things. And I think having that like depth of knowledge around you, or that depth of others' experiences around you is just going to ultimately make you a more well-rounded designer rather than, you have, I imagine, based on the system that you sort of described, you have people that will come in first year with a certain idea of what they want to be as a designer and leave after 5 years having never changed, which is quite interesting and also, I think, disappointing, really.
Well, the ultimate goal for design education, I guess, is to be able to critique yourself, which is super hard. We all know how hard that is. But if they don't practice critiquing others, which is a lot easier, and to see and to rationally look at critical thinking and how do you actually simplify and understand that, you're not going to make that step. It's just easier to practice on others, eventually be able to do it to yourself. And also that process is about learning to step away from your own design, your own ego, and look at what someone else is doing and trying to find clarity in that. And that's what I learned, I guess, as an educator. I learned a lot of this stuff after I left uni, really, just to realize how valuable critique is as a method of learning, really.
Yeah.
And are you having like sole practitioners or professionals come in and use this space as well? Because I can imagine that they'd still benefit from it massively.
Yeah, we have open corner. We have also got architects and architects working there as well at the moment.
Cool.
But yeah, mainly it's studio space and drinks. Often I invite friends and in industry to come in and have conversation with the students here.
And so what are you predominantly doing, organizing Archimarathon stuff there as well, or?
Yeah,
that's the main goal.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, trying to keep this place afloat and spending time with the students when needed, and making content and planning tours, basically.
Yeah, there's a nice little.
And I should be going out there and getting sponsors somehow.
There's a nice little relationship between all the parts that I quite like and then you kind of have this ability to communicate your intent behind Archimarathon as well through your YouTube.
It's education and social engineering.
Yeah, it's brilliant, I think.
Because we do that with our tours as well. We get quite a mix of people, from practitioners and students and enthusiasts, and we make sure that there's a conversation at the end of most days, and everyone has a voice. And at the end of it, like, the students really do gain a lot of confidence in just realizing some of the award-winning architects are just other human beings and can have a decent conversation about it, and knowing a sort of mechanism how to actually have a critical conversation about architecture as well. And enthusiasts, sometimes they're super sharp. It's amazing what they say and what they see as well.
I feel like they'd almost be less hindered by fears of like making a critical point. Their likes and dislikes, I imagine, would be far more prevalent than ours. I feel like we quite often are a bit cagey to make a true criticism.
Yeah. Incredibly shy.
For multiple reasons. Yeah.
Is that because you don't want to get criticised yourself, Sam?
I think it's more that we have a very strict code of ethics, which sort of limits that, particularly in New Zealand, that a true open criticism, particularly professional work, is sort of frowned upon here, which makes things a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
At the same time, architects are usually pretty damn critical of that, which is part of the problem. And that's what we have a no negativity policy in our social media. We're trying to make sure we talk about and explain to people what's great about these buildings we see. We're trying to pick good ones, and why design and architecture matters, as opposed to we can always be critical about that doesn't work, this, that, and there's plenty of that stuff online. I don't think that's actually very healthy for the the state of the profession. We really need to be explaining to lay people like what's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
Instead.
I designed this building once and it made it into a magazine, and so reading some lady's comment was just like, oh, what's so great about this? It's just a box with a window. It's so funny.
Yeah, Instagram's awesome for
I mean, yes, the social media, obviously, there is a lot of negative comments as usual. And certain platform, TikTok, tend to be worse. Instagram is better, and it's interesting that we are getting messages of people. They said they're not into architecture, but they really appreciate some of the things that they're seeing and learning about. And of course, we still get the negative ones. But yeah, it's good that we're slowly, turning people over.
I just think that the communicating architecture to everyone is awesome, and I think so necessary, and something that I don't think we do a lot in New Zealand. Like, we often communicate architecture to each other, and we'll buy magazines made for architects, and
within their realm of architecture or architects.
Yeah, but then
we're very we use very esoteric language as well, archi speak, which makes it quite inaccessible to the public.
Yes,
and when you look at science, they have complex ideas, and then they have these amazing science communicators. We've got Professor Brian Cox and Gracie Tyson, and those people are explaining very complex ideas to the public and making it accessible. And I think architecture, we need that. We're actually pretty bad communicators.
Yeah,
we get very caught up in our own world. That's for sure.
So it's great that you guys are doing podcasts and stuff, and trying to reach out.
Well, I mean, that was one of the ideas behind us starting the podcast, was to make architecture just more accessible to everybody, really. Because you're exactly the point that we've all just made. It's elitist within itself in a way. Like, we sort of just talk about architecture to other architects, and it's a little bit hard for the general public to grasp what it is we do beyond the realms of shows like Grand Designs and things like that, which don't always paint us in the best light either. So I mean, what you guys are doing, I massively appreciate, and I actually really like. I was watching your episode on New York the other day. I was there last year. Maybe not the same. You guys must have been there recently, were you? Or
yeah. But there was also the one that was actually filmed last year. But yes.
Oh, you're probably there around the similar time that I was. It was stonking hot, and I think it was just the realities of visiting a place and interacting with it. You just portrayed really well. Like you're obviously architects and you're critical of work, and you're sort of interacting it from in an architectural way, but it's so easily relatable to the general public and how they'd interact with the spaces. I thought that was really good.
Thank you. Yeah, we actually do most things one take. There's no script. We just go, okay, let's go. Let's talk.
Nice. I like that. I like that honesty. Otherwise, you can tell when things are scripted.
Yeah. I think the use of humor as well is quite cool, and is, I think, a very powerful tool in communicating, like getting people to actually listen to things.
Well, again, we look for things like infotainment. Top Gear, for example, great show. You don't have to be into cars to like it. In fact, at the end of it, you go, oh, it's a great show, but I learned about cars. So I think that's the model that we look to as a way to talk about architecture. Just like two idiots walking around talking about stuff and being idiots, and then architecture happened to be in it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Jeremy Clarkson, he can make TV.
Yeah,
Clarkson's farm.
He's a master, isn't he? Clarkson's farm.
Clarkson's farm.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be great to hear a little bit more about some of your upcoming endeavours, some of the tours. Yeah.
Tours.
How do you even decide where you're going to go? And is it kind of just like a passion, like, there's some amazing architecture here, or a personal preference?
Densities usually something that
Okay.
I go for. Like the first tours that I ran internationally was Spain and Portugal, one of them, and then China was another one, because you get such amazing density, amazing layering, old and new, and great food is usually the choice. And then I did Finland because I know Finland really, really, really well, and people like Finland architecturally. Just it's amazing how popular the Finland tour is, and Japan. So I've got 2 Japan tours planned, the same as this year's Japan tour next year in January. So that's sort of Tokyo,
Awesome.
Osaka, Kyoto, just seeing sort of overview. And then I've got probably for Europe next June, July, we have 2 tours back to back. So it's going to be Netherlands, and then probably about 10 days, and then 14 days Germany.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then it's September because of the expo next year in Osaka. So hopefully we'll do that. It's not too hot in September. And it finishes in October. So let's just do September. What I call the deep cuts and B-sides. So it's Osaka for the expo, but also some of the other places and cities and places that is not on the classic tour. So this is like, you've been to Japan before, we're just going to go look for a bit harder to get to things.
Cool. And how many people do you generally take on the tours?
I think we've worked out the optimum is probably about 14 of us, including Andrew and I, so about 12. Yeah, I think it's just the right size. We pushed it a little bit too big in Finland to be 17 of us, and the dynamics just isn't quite right. But 12 is, I think, is a sweet spot.
So you're filming these at the same time, or like these are separate?
Trying, yeah. The idea was that we would go and tour and then film, but I'm usually just so busy trying to organize and run the tour. My brain is not in that filming space.
Yeah.
And then there's a question of, do I film it vertically for the reels, or do I go horizontally?
Instead of cameraman.
Because horizontal is YouTube, so that takes a lot more. Yeah, well, that is it. I film everything with this.
Oh,
That's
nice.
so cool. Yeah.
Little battery pack.
You don't need anything else nowadays. That's it.
Technology.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Must be super hard. I can imagine quite stressful to organize. Do you generally how do you go about reaching out to some of these spaces or some of these people?
Some of them are, there's the list.
Oh my God.
Like,
sheesh.
in Japan, all the opening hours, and so I know at least how to jigsaw puzzle all together in terms of dates and what have you. Well, a lot of them are literally just like what I do. They're things you just stumble across. You just walk in. There were a few things that were specially booked to get to, because they wouldn't let you just walk in, that I know. Like the Cake Plaza and workshop by Junior Ishigami. We were able to organize Koshino House by Tadao Ando that was open, which is now a gallery. So, but otherwise everything it's no real booking. Only the rare ones, and sometimes it's a little bit too hard to try to book everything, and then it doesn't allow for the flexibility sometimes.
I was going to say, does it
it would.
Is it pretty well tuned?
Clothes.
Yeah, I mean, you look at day one. This is pretty hectic. Like,
that's crazy.
That's day one. That's day two.
Oh, there must be how many?
Mind
like 50 different spots there on day two, maybe.
A lot. Yeah.
Oh, right.
But then if you've been to Japan, like Omotesando, it's like, there, next one, there's another one. It's right next to each other. And there's not much you can see. Like, it's there. It's a shop. Okay. So some of those ones is just like bang, bang, bang. Some of the other ones we can go in and enjoy and spend a bit of time. So really it's playing by ear. It's really curation, because it's not about the list. It is the list, but also just knowing the research and going, okay, if we have to skip something, what will you skip? And then which one, you need to spend more time in. And sometimes it's serendipity. So, suddenly you walk up and then they go, someone comes out and they go, hey, do you want to check this bit out?
Yeah.
Like, that's not usually open to the public. It's like, yeah, great, please.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Then it ends up, that's what
little...
happens. So it's designed in a certain looseness to do that as well. But at the same time, I just hate the fact that, they come back and it's like, that thing was just around the corner. I did not know.
Yeah, definitely. I had a little architecture tour of Tokyo by myself, but I wasn't as organized as you obviously are. So you'd like open up your map and you'd be like, I could walk there and then walk there and then walk there. What you don't realize is how massive Tokyo actually is, and you spend half the day walking just to the first destination. So.
Yeah. And there's so many things you go to, you go, was it worth it?
Yeah. I guess like over the years now, you'll be slowly curating a pretty good, concise list. Obviously it's new for everybody on the tours. What about for yourself and Andrew? Does it get tiresome looking at the same buildings?
Oh, well, Andrew definitely, he has very short attention span. So he, he gets bored pretty quickly. So I don't know how it is in terms of repeating things. So he did do the repeat of Finland this year. So he was all right. He survived.
Nice.
Do you guys have themes often, or do you kind of just... Is it the theme is kind of the city? I always thought it would be awesome to tackle projects. When you're trying to learn something about particularly say sustainability or concrete or something like that, and then all you want to do is go and visit 20 buildings of a good example. Do you have that sort of thing, or is it whatever you can fit in?
Well, I think whatever you can fit in, I think, again, it's the same thing. But that was just around the corner. They're why would you go all the way to see that and not see that? But yes, often there is a ongoing theme. For example, in Finland, most people think it's a timber buildings and stuff, but then it's a lot of really, really good concrete. We had a builder on the tour, and he was he was expecting just timber buildings, but he was surprised the quality of concrete buildings in Finland, which most people don't know about.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good to hear a builder getting out there as well, I've got to say.
Yeah, we get pretty interesting mix of people. Yeah.
That Ishigami Plaza, is that the university one with the holes?
Yep.
What's that like in person?
I'm hoping to have that out as a YouTube episode, hopefully by Friday. Hopefully.
Awesome. What did you think of it in person? Because I love Ishigami and very into how
it's pretty amazing. But okay, this is being negative. It is spectacular space just to see that being used. But it's just like things in Japan, sometimes just how it sits against other things, and there's some other details. Just is that it?
Yeah.
Japan is not as finished as I think most people see it. Some of the stuff you go, is that the door? Is that it?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen that.
A bit better than in real life.
Yeah. So, there are moments you thought it would be so perfectly finished, and then it's the aspects of it that's perfectly finished, and there's stuff that just feels clumsy.
More some of the junctions, or?
The doors are great.
Yeah, I remember making an effort to go out to the Goethe collection and by Herzog and the Muron in Munich. It was, for a long time, one of my favorite buildings.
Mm-hmm.
But I went there in the depths of winter, and I hadn't actually realized until visiting it in person that the facade was timber.
Yes, most people think it's concrete.
I always thought it was concrete, but I'm there in the middle of winter, and it was sort of it's looking pretty weathered, pretty tired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I was quietly disappointed. I was just I'd built this thing up to be so big in my head, and then it just sort of looked a bit drab, and I was like, oh.
It was the early work there. It's in the early 90s they did design that. And then they did a huge extension underneath.
Yeah, it's still an absolutely incredible, gallery and an amazing piece of architecture, but it just wasn't quite what you'd sort of imagined from all the photography that you'd seen.
Yeah.
Having said that, though, I took Andrew there many years ago. In fact, that's when he coined the term Archimarathon, because it was in the middle of winter, and he came on one of my own tours. It's like in the middle of a blizzard. He goes, "This is like a marathon. It's an Archimarathon." But yes, I timed, because I actually, in my itinerary, I write down sunrise, sunset times.
Oh,
Nice.
Cool, yeah.
So knowing, for example, Sam Longert, I would think, okay, when's the sun going to set in Germany around that time? So because it glows at night, so picking the right time so you see the day and it sort of gets dark and see the night. That would be something I would do.
Yeah. Nice.
there's definitely a benefit
This is a
there
man
of
who clearly
doing
knows what he's doing.
the tour, because most of us learn architecture off photos. So seeing a building,
Oh, it's great when you see things that are better than the photos, and that's often the case.
any
And then
standouts?
there's, there are too many to mention. And the things you just didn't even know existed, and like, wow, and usually the local ones that you kind of never heard of. I mean, Aalto, for example, everyone goes to Finland because of our Aalto, and then you get so Aaltoed out. It's like, yeah, there's some good ones, but they're not all that great.
Yeah.
And there's some really amazing stuff you've never heard of. And it's like, why didn't we know about this? But oftentimes, there are photos that look really good, and then in real life, it's like, oh, is that it? There's a lot of Art Daily building of the years that we've been to. It was like by far the worst
Oh, wow,
buildings
crazy.
Oh man,
Interesting.
that we saw. Yeah. And that's not me saying it. That's some of the students and going, whoa, is that it? Why are we spending time here?
That's fascinating, and interesting that, I mean, so often projects, particularly international awards, are judged off photographs. I mean, judging panels can't fly the globe to see everything.
Yeah.
But you can't experience architecture like that. It's such a tactile art form,
Mm.
Yeah, it's quite interesting hearing that to be the case in reality for you guys is sort of that sort of level of disappointment.
Well, it is the social media space as well, isn't it? Like that's what a lot of students look to now. It's just and even trying to make renders and things, for Instagram.
yeah, it's pretty big in the marketing world, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do one of those tours, and they just sound so cool. I guess the experience pays for itself, really. In terms of design, would be, it's the best form of education, isn't it?
Yeah. It is. It's also quite a refreshing thing to just remind yourself like what you're in for from an architect's point of view.
Yeah.
Because when you're just deep every day, you're just working away, and you don't have that kind of luxury. I keep saying there's like chefs, you just need to go out and eat
Try someone
at
else.
different restaurants after a while, rather than just working on it.
Do you do any little like micro local tours as well?
Well, I used to do interstate ones like Sydney and Brisbane. I haven't done that for a while. I kind of retired Sydney because I did a few and I got pretty bored of it.
But Australia's got some great architecture.
I should be. Yeah.
I like those little videos you and Andrew do on individual houses and stuff. Like some of them has
Well,
projects.
mainly Andrew's houses.
Yeah. I think I used to watch his YouTube videos when I was at architecture school. And I remember thinking that was such like a brilliant distilled little micro grand design episodes, and that why nobody else did them. So I'm glad they've been reincarnated.
And that was sort of before the power of social media as well, Gerard.
Yeah, power of YouTube.
Yeah, it would be helpful just critiquing doing your own kind of walkthroughs post construction. I can imagine that would be super interesting. Be like, didn't expect that to come out like that, or this is a lot better than I thought it would be, or it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, they're not things you would say and show.
Yeah.
Times. quietly just thinking, God, how you get so fixated over a thing that just didn't happen the way you thought it was going to happen, even though it's great, no one else cares.
Yeah.
But for you, it's like, oh, that's the biggest sticking point. It's like,
the amount of times that you notice a defect or something that's wrong that nobody else does, and you mention it to someone, and they're like, "Why'd you tell me that?" Now I can't.
I know. It's so funny. No one else can even see them, but you just get addicted and fixated on these little things.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're made up or not. It's pretty funny.
It's like being back at university, and I remember like editing renders, and you'd be in Photoshop down to like the pixel, changing colors, and you're like, no one's going to notice this.
Well, that's actually something we do in the studio, because we have this amazing projection wall that's really big, and it's a whiteboard as well. It's magnetic.
Cool.
So they're working on stuff, and we always go, what's the scale? What's the drawing? What scale are you going to be outputting? So I'm forcing students to output stuff to scale so they can look at it and go, okay, now sit back. This is how they're going to see it. Do you see any of the stuff you're drawing? No, then don't waste your time. Because unfortunately, time is something we waste a lot of as architects, unfortunately. And it's kind of cultivated early on from university. Not because we're not hardworking. I think we're just misguided how we spend the time. Again, it's not about time management either. This is actually, it's a bigger picture than time management. It's actually understanding what you actually need to do.
Yeah.
And how much you actually need to do.
Yeah, definitely. And
this is something that's dawned on me, and some of the students actually been saying it. Some of the students have been here and telling others, like, at the university level, your product is 2D. Because that's all you do. It's really presenting a scheme, and most of it is just 2D. It's a graphics. Even if it's a 3D image of something, it's a 2D image. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to wrap your brain around it, because you think everything is 3D, but it's actually not. It's actually a thing on paper or on the screen.
Yeah.
And so what do you need to do to get to that? It doesn't mean the computer program is going to do it. It could be Photoshop. It could be masking out something. It could be a bit of liquid paper. It could be anything.
Yeah, that's cool. I quite enjoyed doing those 24-hour design competitions during university. It kind of like taught you a little bit to prioritize certain things.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can
a good plan,
through in 24
section.
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The whole time.
And good bonding. You're living in the studio, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you run any competition type things or studio events such as that?
No, we had students from different universities doing competition together and in their off time, and that was great learning experience for them, because instead of universities spelling out this is what you need to do, nowadays they have to spell everything out, every step, which is, I think, is troublesome. They, it's a competition. It's like, here's a competition, here's the brief, this is the submission requirements, here's some of the panels and sizes we need, go.
Yeah.
So that forces them to strategize, to think about, who's got what skills, and pull together that, and also just thinking, well, what time frame, at what point do you need to have what, and get it, and communicating the idea. That's what's important.
These students are getting a lot for $19 a week. It sounds awesome.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Can I come?
Well, it's the mindset.
Yeah, it's so good.
Because I think as a profession, we need to be more efficient with time, because time is what we complain about. Time is what we charge. We just need to have more efficient graduates who can, work effectively.
Sometimes you just need a time
and be critical
to think,
about
though, to make things more productive. I think as you were saying before, it's just the planning, getting the planning right can really streamline a project. I'm learning that a lot recently. That's for sure.
Oh, we're all learning and still constantly reviewing what's need to be done.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. A lot of students think, they're going to come to the studio, they have to do extra stuff. They think it's an extra thing on top, and they don't have time for it. And the whole idea is that it's the other way around. That if you're time poor, you need to be here and strategize and think about what you need to do.
Yeah.
The point is, we're not trying to make your life difficult. The whole point is to make your life better.
Absolutely.
So, Kevin, what brought you to creating this studio thing? I mean, we sort of talked about how it benefits the students, but I mean, it's quite an interesting, from a professional perspective, it's kind of interesting. It seems, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you've sort of really committed yourself to this sort of betterment of the future generation of architects, whether it be through the studio environment or whether it be through informing people through the YouTube videos and things. Like, what's brought you, or what's kind of driven you in this direction?
Well, I've taught for a long time, over 20 years at various universities, and I teach in critical thinking and all the stuff, some of the stuff I'm trying to teach here, and even just critiquing on certain character traits and problems that students have in terms of how they're dealing with the problem or whatever. And of course, now you can't say these things at universities. And I always said that the first thing in all my teaching is always social engineering. I try to break down that barrier very, very early on. Again, things I can't do at university anymore. I used to bring out, here's the subject handout and here's a slab of beer, and then go, what?
Nice.
Just to loosen up the conversation. And we used to get beer runs in the middle of the session and go, right, we need more. And the students go, yep, let's go. And it's just this great conversation, and everyone just gets involved and learning how to critique each other and having this great sort of camaraderie that helping each other was an important thing in the education. And since I left university and also leaving practice, is I just need to find something to do. And I thought, okay, well, I love traveling, I love architecture, and I love teaching. So the tours were the starting point, and then YouTube, and then this space came up because we were already talking about mindsets and teaching students about how to think about and dealing with university, because you can't change university. University is, I've seen colleagues trying to do it. It just doesn't happen. So I thought we can change students' mindsets that would help them, but also help people teaching it as well. So, so that became that, and then this space came up, and it's like, well, let's put things to practice, like what we've been talking about. Like, let's run the space and see what happens. And I used to, back before COVID, I was using WeWork, the co-working spaces to work at. So, because I just need people around me as well. So, and that kind of gave me part of the idea of how this could work. It's a sort of modern day sort of co-working space / studio.
It's amazing the influence, that, you've been in education for 20 years, and it's almost like you, through Archimarathon and the various ventures, you're able to touch or influence so many more people in such a shorter amount of time. It's like, I don't know, it's quite incredible, like the influence that this format has. And I think that's, internationally as well, I think that's quite powerful.
It is amazing to get emails from students and graduates from Africa and India, and saying, yeah, this is great. They really appreciate the help that they had.
Yes.
So instead of teaching 16 students at one time, now we've got access to thousands of people.
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Well, yeah, millions.
That's the plan, right?
It's a very sparsely populated Earth.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. Like, you've got like your little course criteria, little studies, I guess you could liken it to, like the design fundamentals videos, like your mindsets videos.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are like pretty awesome assets for students everywhere to sort of plug into.
Yeah, it's just the old lectures that I used to give every now and then, and it's great to put it into a format that students are comfortable with these days. I mean, I've seen back of lectures, watching students watching a lecture, and then there'll be like laptops are up, and then there'll be a YouTube video playing at the same time the lecture was going. And I realize, maybe YouTube is and social media is probably the way to go. Just how can you communicate quicker? Because lectures are long and drawn out, and it's a performance, and it really depends on the person performing.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're just the same old lecture they've been giving for years and years, and the same without emotion.
Yeah.
And I think this puts, the dissemination of information and knowledge using a much more edited medium, and it could be very what's the word I'm looking for, condensed. But at the same time, people, if they're interested, they'll rewatch it.
Yeah.
But then, they're doing that with lectures anyway. They're recording lectures, but we know that students don't really watch them, because you can see who's actually watched it. And there are students I know that apparently said, they can't wait till the lecture to be finished because it's recorded, so they can watch it again at double speed.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Love the speed up.
Short attention spans.
Yeah.
Yeah, that short attention span must be, I mean, it's getting shorter and shorter, so it's good. We need better ways to deal with that somehow if we're going to continue to educate. Not sure if these hour-long podcasts help in that realm.
Yeah. We've got 2 times speed.
Well, it's conversational, it's unscripted, so that works.
Yeah.
And audio is easy because you can just turn it on in the background. Tune in and out
take
as you see
snippets of the most interesting parts, I guess.
Yeah. So I guess this is like a revolt against university. Do we dare delve into that discussion of?
Well,
because our one,
yeah, I guess there are a lot of people doing other things now. That's great, and the supporting. I would say it's supporting university. Just what they're not doing, that they can't do. The amount of red tape and things. So it's a result. We kind of see there's a certain broken aspects to the system, but there are people out there doing other things. Which is
university.
Great. I think it's a support.
Yeah. The university we went to in the last few years has taken away or made critique optional. Like you don't have to do the critique anymore.
Oh,
which I fear for those students trying to present a design to a prospective client. Like if you've never been told no or never been told to explain your idea, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, it's a big part, isn't it?
Huge.
I feel like Tears poster critique is a rite of passage as well.
And doing an all-nighter and then just standing up and doing the critique, and
we've all been there.
Being able to find your words because your brain's switched off.
Yeah, present your idea to a client and then you cry as a result.
Gerard? Do you know what that justification for making critique optional is? Is it so people don't get absolutely reamed out?
I think it's just hurt feelings. If we boil it down,
right.
People don't want to have their feelings hurt.
It hurts my feelings that they've cut the critiques.
I think it's optional. So, my understanding.
You're right about it being, dangerous for professional practice, though. Like we as architects, and particularly at the moment, because we are operating in such a difficult construction climate, we're having our feelings hurt multiple times daily at the moment. It feels like you're becoming very thick-skinned.
Well, that's why they need to watch my episode on how to survive critique.
Exactly.
There you go. Perfect.
This is not a personal attack.
Yeah.
It should never be a personal attack.
No. You learn a lot more than the person critiquing you, and it's like the person's offering you critique. It's like it's a nice gesture, even if feels confrontational, because you've associated your feelings to your design.
Your ego gets bruised. It is like that, though. I kind of remember every single person that critiqued me at university. So it is a kind of feels like a big thing at the time, that's for sure.
What about when I critique your projects, Ben?
Well, I throw them away and start again after that.
No, I think I don't know. I see it as a sign of generosity. Like I think somebody's investing in you and your design skills. I think it's a very generous thing to do to somebody.
Yeah, definitely.
Providing you
And
don't
back
have
in
feelings.
the day, you would have that absolute terrible sort of critique, with your project, and then with the tutor or guests, and then afterwards you go all good at up together and over drinks, have a chat, and then you realize it's all okay.
I would
It's not
actually
personal.
love to, just speaking of you critiquing me, Gerard, I would love more critiques of anything in my life. I think just like the level of speed of learning that, the progression and the design outcome, just going through that critique, getting various people's opinion, it either confirms what you already knew or it just shows another perspective on other ways or other considerations. So I'm extremely pro critiquing, and
it also forces you to explain it.
Yes.
It draws it out of your
like
mind.
when you read your essay out loud to yourself.
Puts reality to it. It's something that you definitely lose, I found, particularly when starting my own practice. It's something you lose as a small practice, is that ability to critique or be critiqued. And often when I started out, I went to other architecture firms of friends and peers and asked them to basically give me feedback and critique my work, and I found that really helpful. Probably do less so these days, maybe it's just because I've got less work on. But, I think that's one benefit of being in a large firm, is that, you have that body of people around. And like you've been saying, Kevin, with the studio kind of format and having Austin Maynard next door, you've kind of got that larger body of people around to be able to critique as well, which is quite critical.
Yeah.
Do some of the professional designers do some pin-ups every now and then for the students? I can imagine they would benefit significantly from it as well. It'd be awesome.
Not so much, but but mainly from Austin Main Architects and architects when they're working, they can overhear the presentations and to clients or to consultants.
Yeah.
For the in-house discussions that happens, because they just project that up on the board, the big board, to control over it, and everyone can see and poke at it.
That's awesome. That the studio style thing's something that I find missing from my practice specifically, but like I'm a sole practitioner for the most part. I used to co-work with a friend, like we went halves on the rent and what have you, and that was an awesome time. But he's buggered off overseas to more exciting events, and sometimes me and Ben hang out. But I'm quite a social person, so it's weird that I every day drive out to the hut and sit in a shed by myself. Definitely could implement some more studio culture in my own life.
Yeah, I definitely could too.
We should tee up a studio.
Get some students in there.
Gerard. Well,
sounds good.
Just like all of us smaller people, we should just get together, some beers, like Kevin said, and generously pick each other apart.
Start a podcast.
We'll
start a podcast where we just go around talking to design professionals and
getting ripped apart.
Exactly. Maybe we start doing pin-ups on our podcast and getting these professionals to give us some feedback.
Give the feedback. So, Kevin, I mean, you've been around the world. You've seen a lot of buildings. I think Ben touched on it. Do you have any standouts?
That's too many, really. I think,
No.
It really depends on the situation as well. I've got
oh my god,
there's
a lot of photos. No way, that's insane.
What storage are we talking with on that?
That's at least it's $100 a month on Apple Cloud. That is
quite a lot. Yeah.
Far out. That's impressive.
And any plans for a New Zealand tour?
I've been asked that. Well, the problem is that I think all the good stuff tend to be houses and it's hard to get to places.
Yeah,
I think
your condensed program probably doesn't work so well here.
No, it's not about walking around, and it becomes like being bussed around. And I've heard that there's generosity in New Zealand. People just go, "Yeah, let's check out my house." They're pretty generous, but again, I don't think the model it's about. Part of it is the in between. It's getting to a place. And when you sort of only do is really kind of being driven on a bus somewhere else, you kind of don't have that same experience as public transport and seeing how people live and
walking around the
local pub.
I guess it's as much as experiencing the context as it is
and the
actual
culture
buildings as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the food.
Yep.
And beer.
And the food.
Yes. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's important. Oh, is there anything else you wanted to sort of highlight, Kevin, before we wrap things up?
Watch our YouTube. Instagram, it's blowing up on our.
Yeah, your Instagram's huge. It's wild. I thought you were a Kardashian or something.
Well, the Instagram is actually the biggest channel, and it's actually a lot easier to manage as well because it's a short form. I can churn it out a lot quicker. And it's a better format because I think the idea of serving it up to anyone who's not interested in architecture, but somehow the algorithm put it in front of them, they go, "Oh, I didn't know I like this.
Yeah.
This is great." That's much better than the YouTube model, which is like a thumbnail, there's a title, you could clickbait it. It's like, do I want to click and watch this?
Big smiling mugshot or something.
Where can our listeners find you on Insta and YouTube?
Archimarathon. Just Google Archimarathon. You'll be on Insta, TikTok if you have to.
But be
YouTube
nice.
as well.
Be nice.
On TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be the change.
Be nice with your critiques.
Awesome. Oh, thank you so much for jumping on, and
thanks for having me.
Yeah. Very appreciative and love what you're doing. I think we'll see some copycats in the time.
Hopefully the podcast can come on tour with you one day. That'd be quite the privilege. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, cool.
Sounds good. Do a live version.
Absolutely.
That'd be
Definitely. That'd be so cool.